For this next question, we'll be switching the order of candidates. We'll go Ralph, Jenny, Keith, John, JP. How are you trying to stop the influence of money on politics? We'll start with Ralph Becker.
Thank you. In my 11 years in the legislature, I have consistently proposed legislation to clean up the influence of money on politics and to improve government standards and ethics standards for state officials. I have proposed now for 6 years running a ban of gifts from lobbyists to legislators. We've had it pass the House twice. It has never passed the legislature. I have proposed eliminating the personal use of campaign funds for the same reason. We should be using our political funds for political purposes. The influence of money in politics is outrageous in this society. The amount of money it takes to run a mayoral campaign seems enormously high to me. You look at presidential campaigns, and it undermines our entire system of democracy. We need to move away from the current system we have, how campaigns are financed, and move towards public financing or an alternative that does not allow individuals and special interests to dominate politics to the extent they are today. And that happens both in terms of campaign finance and in terms of the influence of lobbyists on elected officials. That has got to change.
Jenny Wilson.
Well, I actually passed a gift ban at Salt Lake County and passed significant campaign finance reform. The gift ban was, no, we just can't take anything. We can go to a related meeting to our job. There had been a history at Salt Lake County, and there is at the legislature, of sporting events, University of Utah, football tickets, basketball tickets, etc. We cannot take those at Salt Lake County anymore, whether we're electeds or employees. In addition, Salt Lake County used to be the Wild West of campaign finance. No limits, no rules. That's changed. Literally when I ran, I could have taken $1 million as long as I reported it, whether it be the NRA or a pro-choice group or an individual. That has now changed. We have 3 cycles. I pushed for one, I was fine with the 3 cycles, the primary, the convention primary, then the general. But initially had tried to pass $1,000 limit totaling 3 to get it through. I had to work with my colleagues, and we're now at $2,000, $2,000, and $2,000. So if a contributor gives late, they can only give $2,000 at Salt Lake County. That's significant change. We also now have lower standards for reporting. It used to be that if you gave $500 or more, then you had to list the occupation and employer. It's now $200. So we have greater disclosure of where the money's coming from. It makes it more obvious for bundling and that type of thing. And Ralph referred to this notion that people should not be using their campaign funds for personal use. Well, isn't that obvious? And I don't know why it's so darn hard for the legislature to understand that. Under my new regulation at Salt Lake County, the money can be given to another personal campaign or a nonprofit organization. Can't be used to pay mortgages, pay off boats, or do anything else with it. And it is sorely needed at Salt Lake County. This particular act at Salt Lake City needs some change, and I'll be, as mayor, advocating that we take a look at it and make change there as well.
Keith Christensen.
Thank you. Let me have you think with me, if you will, for a moment. Let's go back and think about something that occurred here sometime before 2002 Winter Olympics showed up. Remember the so-called scandal that occurred in the bid process for the 2002 Winter Games? Why did it occur? Because of greed? Because of, if I could use a tough word, extortion? The IOC was a perfect example of the kinds of things that happen when money creeps in inappropriately. Now, when the games got here, I was asked by the governor to serve as a trustee for the games. I worked extensively with those games. Post-scandal, I was appointed at the same day that Mitt Romney was appointed. I was asked to serve on the public relations subcommittee for the trustees of the games. And you want to guess what some of the folks that have been working on these games wanted? They wanted preferential treatment. They wanted seats in advance of you and I. And I insisted that we not have closed meetings, that we talk about money issues in front of the public. And suggested that if they wanted to close the meeting, I would make a statement they wouldn't like. They opened the meeting, and you know that you and I each had the same right to tickets as did the trustees for the games and others. Public service is what those games, I think, exemplified. Those who chose to be and to work with and help get the games for us were, I believe, doing it for a number of reasons, but those who became trustees needed to be public servants. Those elected officials that we elect in government need to understand the concept, public service. We should not have an expectation of return for that service. So I agree with what's been said here. We should not benefit because of elected office. Gifts, junkets, things of that nature are revolting.
John Renteria.
The question is, what are we doing now about it? Not being a politician, I'm actually practicing what I believe in terms of running a pretty frugal and shoestring campaign here in terms of hustling votes, not money. So I think a good start is with the individual candidate himself. And let's face it, we live in a system as far as running for office where money does buy you a lot of attention. Nowadays, with this, like internet and other things that we do in the community to raise attention on our candidacy, it's not as necessary, except for when it comes to publicity, publicizing, and paying your staff. So I think one of the things we really need to do is look at what we can do to propose public financing of future campaigns, or a better balance between the two, and limiting contributing amounts on campaigns. But for the most part, I think it's up to the candidate to show what he really means by what he's doing by running. And unfortunately, money talks sometimes. And if you really want to get out there and impress people about your campaign and who you are, then you do it yourself, not from somebody else's deep pocket, or your own for that matter.
Finally, J.P. Hughes.
I think I'd like to see in the mayoral campaign in the next 4 years, a candidate go around and get 2,000 votes or so from the community. That would qualify the person for a $40,000 grant to manage, and then just see how well they do managing the money to get their message across, to get the publicity they need, to make sure that they are involved. It's very unsettling to see some of the people that have been in this race that have decided not to continue. Robert Comstock, who's here as one of the greatest guys in the history of the world, and you figure, how do you keep someone in the race if it becomes so expensive? And I think it's a sad thing on a mayoral level to have it be something that requires and demands so much attention to the money. Sometimes the money then discourages people from having a trust in the system, but there is no question you need it to make your point across. The idea that John says that what you're doing here today, and then the idea that we have the greatest living website in the world, people can go directly to that and find out about me if they want to. jphughes4mayor.com.